or good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Sparkle of Light Spiritual Chat Show. My name is Alice Trevorrow. I'm a spiritual medium and psychic and producer of tonight's show. So tonight I will be hosting along with our lovely Judith Miller, who's also a spiritual physical medium as well. And as anybody who watches the show, Judith and I, we always have a little blether as well. That's a Scottish word, isn't it? Blether. I don't think that's an English word. Yeah, so we'll have a little chat. Yeah. Do you know the word blether, Judith?
I do, and over here in Ireland we would go a bit of a ganch. We'll have a bit of a ganch. So yeah, we do have a bit of a blether, really, don't we? Though.
We do. Yeah. So yeah. Oh well. What's that? Sorry.
How was your travels?
Oh wow. Yeah, was out of travel. Yeah, but I was down to see our daughter, who stays down in Eastbourne. So it was lovely. It was really, really nice. And I also a little shout out to Fulham Spiritualist Church, because it was great. I was I was doing readings down there. It was really good. It was a Christmas extravaganza, so it was lovely. And well done to Derek, who is the president, and also to all the members and committees who do all that work in Fulham Spiritualist Church, because it's a lot of hard work pulling all that together, and they do such an amazing job. Thank you for the welcome. I had a great experience. I did a great time. And so I was down there, and then we came back a few days afterwards, and we arrived back today, Judith, about 5:30 tonight. So it was a quick shower and change for me and onto the show.
Full steam ahead. I've seen your photographs. They were gorgeous.
Yeah. I've had a great time. It's been good. I'm quite excited about tonight's guest as well. So I've got a bit of a history there as well. So we'll chat about that as the show goes.
Full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Full circle, Judith. That's right. Yeah. So tonight's guest, we have our lovely Paul Bannister, who is a spiritual evidential medium. He is also one of the hosts on Spiritual Talk TV show as well, which is on YouTube, and it's quite a popular show, so people I'm sure will recognize that name. We also have Paul, who does private readings, he does mentorship, he does teaching, he does quite a lot, and he's been in the movement for over 20 years as well. And previously, I think it was about a couple of years ago, maybe it's not as long as that. I'm not. Don't shout at me, Paul. I don't really know, to be honest. But I was on Paul's show, and I was a co-host on there when he had his show as well. Before we kind of moved on, and Paul moved on to bigger and better things, and I moved on as well. And it's great to know that we can still move on in life, still be friends, still support each other, and be there for each other as well. So yeah, absolutely. So I've got a lot of respect for the guy, because if it wasn't for Paul, I probably wouldn't be doing this today, because it's not something that I would have said that I was capable of doing or could do. I didn't have that confidence to kind of do it, but Spirit had other ideas, so they pushed me forward, and they helped guide me on the right direction, and they guided me to get you on as well, Judith. They guided me to get you on as well. So it's been great. You've been a massive support to me. You're a great team player as well, and I love you loads. So
I love you.
Yeah. So get all emotional. So without any further ado, let's get our lovely Paul on
the main man. Get
me. Hi guys.
Hi Paul.
Hi Paul. Hi. It's lovely to have you on this show, and it's great to see you looking so well. You look amazing. Yeah, you're looking really well tonight. Yeah.
I'm actually just getting over COVID. So.
Oh really? Really?
I've got a bit of COVID brain, so I'm a bit fluffy in the old brain cells. I'm not been so great, but I'm getting there slowly. I'm not testing positive anymore. It's just that after effects where you get a kind of, you know, bit fuzzy with the memory, but
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a year this week since I went to visit my daughter in Liverpool last Christmas time last year, and I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks with COVID pneumonia.
oh my gosh, no, touch wood, it wasn't that bad.
Well, I've only ever had it once, and that was the once. I've never had it before, and I've never had it since.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're doing better.
Yeah. I thought out to anybody that's got COVID just now. So anyone listening, if you do have COVID, you know, we're sending all our love to you. It's not easy, and there's definitely different strains of it. You know, as you say, Judith, because you ended up in hospital as well with it. So yeah. So Paul, right? I'm interested in knowing how your journey began. If you can explain to the listeners where it all began for you, you know, was it when you were a young child? Was it later on in life? Let's kind of dip in to Paul Bannister's story.
Okay, well, thank you for asking. It's nice to be this side rather than your side for a change. I'll keep it fairly brief because we haven't got all night. So I want to kind of rewind a bit and go back to my childhood. We have got a really bad echo over me.
With you?
Is it with me still?
Yeah, there's no echo I can hear at this end, darling. There's none there, you know.
Yeah, both Judith and I are hearing a really bad echo. So do you want me to...
There's no bad echo. No, you're all right. You're fine. You're fine.
Sure?
Just you carry on. It's going fine at this end. So if it's going fine at this end, the production and recording will be fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll carry on. So when I was a child, I had an experience. I was about 8 years old.
I would try and change
what's that? You too, Judith?
Am I echoing? I'm not echoing. Slightly. I think it's your microphone, Paul. I think it's your microphone.
I think it's my microphone. Do you want me to come out and come back in again?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, you can do. But I don't hear anything at all. It seems to be fine here.
It's quite a bad echo with Paul.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't hear it.
Let me come out and come back in again. I'll be 2 seconds. I've done this before a few times. So
yeah, that's okay.
I won't be
don't
long.
bring your twin on. I want you back.
Don't worry. I'll be back. As I used to say.
Okay. All right. Okay. Lovely. Yeah. It's funny. I don't hear anything at this end at all. So
I can this end.
Yeah, but bear in mind it will be going from my end to the recording. So you know, and they sort it out as well. So yeah. Well, okay. So right, Judith. So what have you been doing then this week before we call back on?
I've been making everywhere Christmas. I have the outside of my house all lit, all the new lights, all the lights over the hedges. I've got one tree up. I've got my hall done, my living room done. I've been wrapping presents. I've got one more tree to do. And yeah, it's just I've been playing Christmas. I just love Christmas. So I love
Christmas. Yeah, I do as well. Well, I'll be playing Christmas tomorrow because my daughters came back up with us for a few days. So we will be putting the tree up. I know it's early, listeners. I know it's early, but hey, if it makes you happy, it lifts your heart up, go for it. Just go for it. Put that tree up.
Are you fussy with your tree? I'm really fussy with my tree. I'm really fussy.
I'm fussy with everything.
Yeah, it's like a 2-day thing for my tree.
Paul's back. Okay. So how are you, Paul?
I'm good. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. So where were we with you? Okay. You were telling us about when you were younger as a child.
Yeah. So I was 8 years old, roughly, when I had my first experience with the spirit world. It was quite frightening as a child, but I just assumed it was the house that we was in. There was a lady running a circle, and it was what they call rescue circle. Whether you believe in rescue circles or not, at the time I had no idea what a rescue circle was. and her son and I were best friends, so we'd spend a lot of time together. So kind of by default, we was in the same environment.
Yeah.
That echo's still there, isn't it?
I don't hear it. I don't hear it. Please don't worry about it, because I will get it sorted in the recording part of it.
All right.
So don't worry about it. Okay. All right. Let's just continue on with this show.
We'll continue.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so from there on in, I was around that energy and my next door neighbor, her home, for around 5 or 6 years, having various experiences growing up. And I look now back at that experience as a positive, because actually I remember when I was 16, 17, John's mum would go into a trance and she would bring through her guides, and we would sit and listen to her about the spirit world and understanding the levels and what happens when we pass. So I kind of had this default education about the spirit world. I had no idea or intention of becoming a medium in any way.
Yeah.
No.
And then I got into my 20s, you do the, get into work, you do the mortgage, but along the way, every house seemed to be haunted. And I just thought, well, there's my luck, there's my luck, just typical. Again, I hadn't twigged it, that it was down to my own energy that was activating the energy that was in the house. So after that, it wasn't until I was diagnosed with having a brain tumor that life really changed for me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've got a lot, and I always joke about this. I've got a lovely scar on the back of my head, and I joke it's a West Ham away or Millwall away scar in the away end. That's my football joke. By the way, I have a really bad sense of humour, so guys at home will probably know
that. You're in the right crowd. You're grand.
But I was really lucky that the tumour that I was told I had, it was a particularly difficult one to remove because it sticks to everything. And it was on the spinal column going inside the skull, and it got to the size of an apple. So they predicted it was going to cause a lot of damage. But actually, when it came to the operation, which took some time to get to that point, the operation was a 12-hour operation, and they managed, because I was told I was going to be in intensive care for months, and they'll do things slowly to get me back on the road of recovery. But what happened, basically on the day of the operation, I went back to the ward because I'd made a full recovery. Pretty much the tumour was removed without any damage to the nerves, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And it was at that
it's a very delicate area. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was at that point I remember saying to upstairs, I want to give something back. What can I do to say thank you? And that's when it all started for me. I was in my early 30s and I was experiencing all sorts. So I then went along and found, and they do say the right teacher comes at the right time.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found an amazing gentleman called Paul Bannister, who's still alive today and working. Because, when we do this work, there's no such thing as retirement, ladies.
No, not at all.
It's the sort of thing you don't want to retire.
Yeah.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
No, it's part of life. It's part of your life. It's everything to me. And I never want to retire from this. Not that you could retire from it anyway, but even if I had a choice, I wouldn't. I love it.
So Paul, I'm curious. I didn't know about the brain tumor, and it's amazing, and you've done fantastic. When that recovery, because I'm asking because my sister had 2 brain hemorrhages, one each side. When she was 18, and she had to learn to walk again. She had to learn her balance. She had her head shaved. She had to just everyday normal activities. She had to relearn them. But the healing period was hard. With you being so spiritual, when you were coming through that healing period, was there a bit more of an awakening, a bit more of an awareness and a presence when you were going through that?
Yeah.
I think it's twofold. I don't think it's as simple as just an awareness and awakening. for me, as a philosophical change in terms of my outlook on life. And I remember the surgeon, he was very deadpan. I mean, I was grateful to have one of the best surgeons in the world doing the operation. And he said to me, "Oh, look here, young man." He said, "Look, you've got a mountain to climb." He said, "But once you get to the top of that mountain, you know, you won't look back. Life will never be the same again." And it's absolutely true. Life wasn't the same again. And I can tell you wholeheartedly, even today, I still struggle with life sometimes in terms of life is for now. It's this moment. It's for living every moment. It's to love those that love you. Be around those precious moments. All of that. And don't get me wrong, I get caught up in the minutiae. Everyone does, but for me, life is for living. It's for now. It's for the moment. I'm not talking about you being irresponsible. It's obviously got to be balanced, but it changed my approach forever. And again, I touch wood with the healing side of things. I had to learn to walk again. You're right, but that process was very quick for me because on the X-rays, you could see that where the step should be straight on. It was on the right side. The actual, it was like that pushing into it. So then I had to rebalance. They had me in Addenbrooke's 2 days before the operation because they couldn't work out how my body was still managing to walk. I had no signs of it. So and it was only found because I had an ear infection. It wouldn't go away, and they scanned me, and they found this tumor.
So is it all removed now?
So they managed to remove most of it, and this was in 1997. By 2010, they signed me off. So I've had many scans over that period. But you know, I'm here, I'm fine. It hasn't come back, so I'm really trying to be positive about it. But I understand it, and it's interesting because I gave a message. I did a reading for a gentleman today. His wife passed a brain tumor, and I literally felt that in my head. I could relate to that pain. I knew exactly what was going on with her. So it's quite interesting. But
we don't always realize it at the time. And it sounds silly. Some people might not get it, and I understand. Everything happens just for a reason. Everything, even the conditions we're diagnosed with, very much happens for a reason. And you talk about the healing. I'm a very big believer in self-healing. You know, we can self-heal, and sounds like a lot of that mindset helped you come through that, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, though, I wasn't particularly a spiritual person up until that. When I got diagnosed, I was busy living my life. And I remember the period up to the operation, the surgeon said, "Look, we're going to do this in 6 months' time." I wasn't going to have the operation. And as a typical guy, I wasn't going to have it done because they basically told me that I was going to have so many difficulties. It would change my life forever, not being able to speak, not being able to swallow, not being able to drive. You know, I don't want to live like that. I was 20 years old. I didn't want to live that way. So I'm going to, this is shameful, really. I spent 6 months having a really good time thinking that I was going to end up really badly disabled.
Yeah. It must have been very frightening for you, though. It must have been.
Well, I used to lie awake and think they're going to be cutting the side of my skull out to get into the tumor. And I had no symptoms. I wasn't ill apart from an ear infection. But they told me if I didn't have it out, it wasn't cancerous. The size of the tumor, it would cause a hemorrhage. So I had to get it operated on.
Paul, have you anything plugged into your computer?
Absolutely nothing. I'll tell you what, let me just make sure everything's shut down. How's that? Is that any better? No. The only thing it can be is if you have external speakers, sometimes it can do that because it used to do that to us. Me and Alice on StreamYard sometimes. Our guests would come in and they had external speakers. But the only thing I've got is the microphone that's external to the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, listeners, if you're having a little bit trouble listening to this tonight.
I can try putting headphones in to see if that alleviates it. That sometimes works.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, the more money. Really... Go on, sorry, Alice.
Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right, though. Do you know what's really strange about this? Because I know that I'm getting lots of comments saying that the feedback is pretty bad. But do you know what's strange? I don't hear any feedback. No. I'm the only one that's not hearing it. I know, it's really weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Is that any better?
You're
wee bit, I think. A wee bit.
Oh, Jennifer's put, try taking turns mute.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll mute first, okay? I don't like muting. I like to talk, but never mind.
Me too.
This is like a technical episode, isn't it? Everyone's going to help us with our technical issues. That's better. That's gone now.
Yeah, but I haven't muted. So.
Yeah, that's gone now. Sorry, Alice. It's gone.
Alice, have you an external microphone?
Let me try.
Jennifer says it's not better. Jennifer says it's not better.
You stop now. Turn your phones off. Good point. Oh, she's put better.
No, she said not. Oh, better now, is it?
Yeah, better now. Is your phone on anybody?
I had my phone on. It could have been that.
Yeah, try turning your phones off and see what happens. That works,
yeah,
she says.
I've got my phone off now.
Hear the echo again.
Can anybody let us know if it's still there or if it's came back? Yeah.
It's back.
Yeah. Give us some help from the other end.
Like that song. What do you call it? What is it? Eminem sings it, and it's back.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Deirdre says it's fine. When Alice is muted, it's better. Deirdre says.
Sorry, Alice.
But Deirdre says it's fine. So I don't know. It's back when you unmuted. Okay.
All right, maybe try the settings on your side, Alice. Whether the.
Okay. I will. I'll look and see.
Because sometimes mine did that. Yeah, sorry, Judith, go on.
While Alice is tweaking away there, so you were coming through your journey. When did it really stand out that this is what you wanted to do? When did the passion kick in for you?
Okay, I shouldn't laugh, but I'm like, people love the idea of being a medium or want to be a medium, wanting to develop. I wanted to run the other way. So, I'm a typical bloke. I was very, I grew up with it. I was aware of it, but I never suspected any time that I was going to become a medium. I don't even like that particular word because it kind of puts us in a box anyway, because we are so much more than mediums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deirdre's put Mercury shadow.
Right. I had on echo cancellation, which should have reduced any echoing at all. So I took the echo cancellation off and it's still there apparently, but I had echo cancellation on, which should have reduced any sort of echo.
I don't hear an echo with you now.
Yeah, no, I think she's now gone. Can
you
hear
your volume up? Alice, turn your volume up.
Okay.
Paul is echo. Trudy's put Paul is echoing. Let me try it without headphones. Does that work any better? 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I echoing, Trudy? Can you hear me? It stopped. Oh.
Okay. Well, I think we'll carry on with the show anyway.
That's it. You're up. You're back, Alice.
Yeah. I turned my volume right down, but the echo cancellation I do have on, and it
me too.
Me too.
But it really should stop that, but it obviously wasn't. So StreamYard echo cancellation does not work. So there you
Donna's put it's fine now, so let's hope it will stay away.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, back to your question, Judith. it took a long time for me to develop in terms of I grew up with a father who's a very logical man, electrician. He could fix anything, really put his mind to. So for me, having that information, it's interesting. I interviewed Johnny Finch and Palmist, and he noticed on my hand that I don't know if you can see that, I've got 2 lines. And he said that the 2 lines here basically mean that you have 2 parents that come from 2 different worlds.
Okay.
And it absolutely is true. So
what line? Point to the line you're showing.
This line here, I've got one here, and there's a second one running here. Can you see that? And he said the two lines represent the 2 different types of parents. So your parents would be like, my father's very logical. Yeah. What hand do you write with? So your parents are obviously
right.
Yeah. So that was more important. This one here for you, Judith. And are you right-handed as well, Alice?
Yeah, I'm
Paul, bring your
right-handed.
hand closer. Have you got a spiritual cross? Because yeah.
Alice is my sister from another mister.
Okay.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Well, these dark winter nights, that's all I'm saying.
Well, we're all connected anyway. We're all interconnected anyway in some way
absolutely.
or another.
Absolutely.
So go ahead, Paul. You were talking about your hand.
So so basically it kind of what I was trying to refer to was I was very logical thinking, grew up. I was working for BP as well, driving tankers for BP. And I got back to work within 6 months. I thought my license was gone. I had it was just very grateful. But then like I said, I started to have these experiences around me. So when it all started to open up and I found someone that could help me, I still struggled with the belief system, understanding the process. So I've spent many, many years studying, understanding, and understanding the process, because everything has a process. I know not everything can be explained, of course not. But for me, I had to know the basics of how it worked. This wasn't just a part of my imagination. This was real. So my dad used to say to me as a child, he said, Paul, you got a vivid imagination in there. So I was battling that programming, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But it's true, when we think of our children, when they're growing up, and I was having this conversation yesterday. So as children, when we grow up, that door's already open. That imagination, that openness, it's already there. And it's as we grow up and as children, we're told it's our imagination, all sorts. And we're conditioned and we're told. And as we get older, we ourselves close that door.
Yeah, sure.
It's like what you say, even the terminology, imagination, visions, people really get mixed up with those 2 terminologies.
When you're a child, though, you come in with the innocence and you've no fear. It's when the fear's a big part of not just as children, but continuing actually in your own life. Fear is something that can prevent you from doing so much and stop you many a time on your tracks from doing what perhaps you should be doing. And
as a child, I'm scared of it.
Yeah. That's really poignant for me, Alice, because that's exactly what I had to battle at first as well. The fear factor of it, not understand, and logically, what we don't see or don't understand, we fear. It's part of fight or flight, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is.
So we're having to battle those natural forces within us and our programming. So it's a wonder we get anywhere. Really think about it. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication to really develop and to unfold.
I was at a neurologist just a few days ago, and a couple of years ago I had a mini stroke a couple of years ago, and the neurologist is absolutely brilliant. She's fantastic, and she explained to me about some parts of the brain that they do not know about yet. But she explained to me about the part of my brain that she did know about. And she said, it's like a computer. And a computer can stop and start. It can, go into pauses. So can the brain. The brain is just basically a computer, and it can go into pauses. It can for no reason. It may be nothing to do with your blood pressure or cholesterol or anything like that. It can just be your brain's paused, and it's caused you to have that mini stroke. But she said to me also, the brain can freeze as well, where when the brain freezes, then you can have a real stroke, but then it can restart back up again, and then it's a slow process getting that computer to work again. And she said, if you look at it like that, then it's quite normal that that it happens, but it's also very surprising that it doesn't happen more often than it does. So I thought it was quite interesting, the way she explained that, because she said, really, when you think about it, we've all got brains, we only use a small part of our brain, but how has it not frozen or paused more than it normally does, than you'd expect, so it is interesting if you think about your brain as a computer, and overload as well.
To think that there's parts of your brain that they still don't know anything about is quite shocking, actually, in 2024.
They still do not know about the brain. And I mean, they're further on than they were, but she said there's so much about the brain that we do not understand. And one of the parts as well is your consciousness. Your consciousness, they do not understand that, because if you die, your brain stops, and you're totally brain dead, your heart stops. But your consciousness, you're still aware, and you know exactly that you can see people working on you can hear the conversations, etc. And then the heart starts again. And you're like, well, how did they know all that? Because their consciousness wasn't there. So there's a lot of it they don't know, they don't understand, but they believe it. They do believe, well, I heard the conversation with the nurse to the doctor, and I heard this, that, the next thing, but yet you were flatlined, and you could have been flatlined for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, or more. So it is quite incredible, the things that we still don't understand. What's your thought on that, Paul?
There is I interviewed a lady. Oh, do you know what? My COVID brain is still not working properly. But I interviewed a lady. Oh gosh, it must have been 4 months ago, and she runs an academy from near London in Essex called the ICU Academy. Now they blindfold children between the age of 6 and 12. After that, it's a completely different aspect. We can't do it as we get older. But she got a load of downloads from Spirit, how to create this schooling to help children to have a higher perspective and help them to understand the world, especially children that struggle in mainstream schools. Now, if you check it out, she's on Gaia. I think the episode is or the series is called Superpower, and I think she's season 2, episode 2 or 3. And they, like I said, they blindfold these children. And I remember watching the episode, and they make sure the blindfolds are so tight to the head that it stops the third eye from receiving any light from the eyes. Once that happens, over a short period of time, consciousness, because it's not just in the body, it's outside of the body. Now, first of all, I never forget watching this. She said, right, children, come on, we're going to make some jewelry now. Put your blindfolds on. And they start making jewelry with their hands. Well, I could give it a rough go on that, Be a bit like the Generation Game, if any of you remember the Generation Game. And then she said, which then it was quite emotional, actually, it blew me away. She said, right, children, we're going to read now. I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And they literally read from their books. And then Miss said, okay, children, can you describe what you're seeing? And they were describing the pages really accurately. And then they were talking to the parents. It's quite a big organization now. It's around the world. They teach people how to teach this technique. So parents can learn it for their own children, especially if you're homeschooling, which is always an option. But it was quite interesting because, well, one of the dads didn't believe his daughter could read blindfolded. So one day he came into the school and he sat at the back there and waited till the children started to read blindfolded. And he sneaked up on his daughter. And as he got closer, the daughter was reading and she put her book down. She said, "Miss, I can't see. My sight is gone." And she mouthed to the dad, "Go back." And he went back. And she said, "Oh, it's okay, miss, my sight's coming back." So she even sensed the father's negative energy and it affected her. This shows you, doesn't it? It's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Again, so consciousness exists outside of the body. And we have that when we meditate. I remember listening to a Cambridge scientist who was at Cambridge studying science, and he was doing alongside that a meditation, and he was having these out-of-body experiences. But medical science was saying no, because consciousness is inside the body. He had this whole, I mean, he's gone on and done many things now spiritually, but it really shows us that consciousness is something that we don't understand. So
because the soul, a lot of people think that the soul is within the body, when really the body's within the soul.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions. And I think that through time, through the years, through the generations, more and more people were understanding more, and spirit are sharing more. They're sharing more that, I don't think 20, 30 years ago, even back then, never mind the 1900s, I don't think we would have been more as open to it.
Well, Judith, can you imagine blindfolding kids when we was at school? People would have got done for child cruelty. So what are you doing?
So there's a lot of things that happened at school that should have been done for cruelty.
Yeah.
Really.
I used to get Fred across the knuckles, and I don't think I should have got that.
Yeah. I got chalk. My maths teacher was always very good with the chalk. Always seemed to get me right between the eyes. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. Carl, I'm just looking at the comments, and Carl Sims, he's saying about, we're talking about the brain, and he's saying so true. The brain hard drive, heart equals the CPU memory, the RAM, the nervous system, CPU, the motherboard, circulation. So it's really interesting, when we talk about the human body and the connection it has, spiritually as well as scientifically.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting
Dr. Beard, my neurologist. Dr. Beard, my neurologist, thank you so much. Because information, I was quite blown away by it all, and she was going right in depth about it. I thought it was really interesting. Paul, sorry,
go on, Alice.
Since you've had everything that's been going on with the brain, etc., would you say that your senses have changed in any way? Have they got stronger?
It's really hard to say, really. I mean, I have some unusual experiences. Is it because I've had this operation? I like to joke there's not a lot up there anyway, so there's a lot of space for it to rattle around in anyway. So I do, like I said, I'm good at terrible jokes. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that question. I can't logically answer that because I don't know. Again, it's all it's personal to everyone, our experiences, but I don't know whether that gives me, I don't want to say an advantage or an opportunity. Maybe I know my frame of mind helps me in terms of, every experience that we have helps us within our own mediumship. The journey that we all have different experiences, but I'm not quite sure why I had that experience So yeah, that's a really interesting question from Deirdre, by the way.
Yes.
The
The age of
reason
Aquarius. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry,
the
Alan.
the reason I
Go on.
asked that, gosh, the reason I asked that is I know quite a few people who have lost, their sight, and we were talking about different things about that, and their own sensory awareness has got stronger. And
Yeah.
they were mediums. Some of them were not mediums before, but some were. I mean, they're all mediums, but you know what I mean, working mediums. And since they became partially sighted or completely blind, it opened up and to other senses, and their mediumship got so much stronger. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think there's a lot we don't know about. If one aspect gets taken away, then another part of the brain kicks in and opens up another door there, maybe.
Well, one of my favorite exercises for in-person circles is when you blind read someone, whether you put a blindfold on the person working and the person sitting behind them just touches their shoulder for yes on left, no on the right, or in between for maybe. That's always a good little exercise, and that's really good because you're having to trust your senses.
I remember when I was training, it was actually with Andy. It was actually with Andy and Paul Jacobs, and I remember we were put into a room, but we were blindfolded, and we walked into this room, sat down, didn't even know what the room looked like, and there was somebody facing us, and didn't all we could hear was the voice, but we were totally blindfolded, and sat down and brought in spirit world, and it was just the evidence of spirit world that we were bringing in. Then afterwards the message from spirit world, and all we got from the recipient was yes, no, don't know, nothing else, not a thing. And we didn't even know who this was, so anyway, when it finished at the very end, then all the person came out and then gave us all the feedback, etc. And I found that exercise, yes, it was quite frightening at first, because it was, you were totally trusting spirit world here, I need it. And if anything, I think that was what kick-started my trust fully on spirit world, because at the end, when you got your feedback, it was quite mind-blowing, the information you gave. And yet you didn't know what the room was like. You didn't know who you were giving this to. And there were different people. It wasn't the same person all the time. So
Okay.
it was very interesting. It was very interesting. Yeah. It was the best exercise I think I'd ever did that gave me that trust, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Paul, I wanted to touch on Deirdre's comment. She talks about the age of Aquarius and being enlightening. We are coming out of Aquarius. We are going into Aquarius now, aren't we? And then, funny, Alice, we talked about this last week, and 2025, a lot of mediums and a lot of spiritual people, they're all sensing so much is changing, and they're all feeling it, and they know the path, that everything's changing come 2025. What about you? What's your opinion on it?
So I remember talk about Aquarius, the age of Aquarius in the 90s, and there's been a lot of shifting and movement. When you think about, so like I said, I've grown up around mediumship because of my next door neighbor and going to demonstrations, understanding, listening to people talk, philosophy, etc. But my understanding, Aquarius has been, there's been a preparation to come into this time. It's not just something that's going to go bang and we're here. My understanding is it's a process that's, you've only got to look at the outside world since COVID and how everything has changed, and also how the internet has changed everything. We now live in a world where nothing is hidden, and it's happening from inside, outside. We're all, but it's all starting to come out. I mean, you've only got to look at this Senate committee yesterday or the day before. They're really trying to get this non-disclosure act so we can understand if there's UAPs out there, or UFOs as they used to be called. You know, all this kind of stuff. You know,
do you know, I can get that. But the governments, I'm sorry, I have to be the one to say it. The Spirit are sharing a lot of stuff with us, and a lot of truths. But sadly, as one opens, the other's closing. I think. What would you think, Paul?
So I agree with that, but there is a shift within us all, and I believe that that's more of mankind, that we are going into a time where we are becoming more aware. There's a Professor Peter Fenwick, and he does a lot of neurological or neuroscience study, and he's found in his studies at least 5,000 people that he's got on his records are starting to experience life in a different aspect, seeing more color, becoming more sensory aware. And that's happening. You've only got to look at the children that are being born now, how so much more sensitive they seem to be. Things are changing, but like everything, I don't think it'll be a wham bam and it all changes. I don't think it's going to be one particular thing that changes. It's going to be like a domino effect. One thing will change one thing, and it will eventually come in. It might take 30 years for us to get to the point where we have no more conflicts. We're supposed to be going into this age of Aquarius where there's at least 1,000 years of peace. We shall see.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to see it, but I think things have to progress to a certain stage for that to start developing. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's interesting.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting. You know, I think 2025. I think for me, it's going to be a very interesting year. I've got a lot happening in 2025. But for the world, I also think it's going to be very, very interesting and where we're going. And
2029 is a big year. 2029. It's a really big year.
Is it? Yeah. Right. Tell us more then. You can't just say that and leave us hanging.
So you know, I will share it because I've shared it on prophetic news. So I do the prophetic news of the Spirit, and they told me about 2025. They told me about the pandemic, September 2025. Next one's coming in. They've also said
pandemic
2025. And 2029. Well, 2029, they've said that, like, we think things is bad at the moment, okay, with everybody and the way things is. But in 2029, everyone is going to take to the streets, and it can't be stopped. It has to happen. It can't be stopped. And when you think about it, there's a new presidency coming into play here, and then the next presidency will be 2029. Now, I'm not saying it's connected to that, but they've never changed the date. 2029 is definitely. I think what you're talking about, Paul, you know, more is being divulged, more is coming out. I think we're seeing even more as we go along, and by 2029, it's like an explosion of truths, I want to say, and people just they're not going to be controlled by the fear anymore. Yeah.
Here we've got Deirdre who's saying, I'm a Capricorn and I felt the massive changes since 2008. I had to flow with the changes. I have 2 Aquarian kids. There's going to be a massive move forward to the people and love and humanitarian.
I think we have to be careful on one thing though, and that's not to bring us into fear, because a part of Aquarius for me is about rising above that fear, rising above control, being more independent, but being also, what's really important is we stay centered and remember it's all about love, which is why we incarnate in the first place, which is why humanity started in the first place. It is all about love, and yes, all those disruptions, all the things that are coming, are for us to get into a place of peace and love and that harmony.
And it's important to remember, Spirit will never take anything from you without giving you something better in return. So it's not as a place of fear, it's still looking as a place of positive and a place of love. It is true.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, when you talk about people going to the streets, I agree. I mean, you've only got to look what happened this year in the UK. You know, there is a lot of fear. Yes, we literally have governments breaking down. We have order breaking down. But look at how more people are so much more open and more spiritual and more understanding. Look how it coincides with religion. Religion is breaking down too. But people feel something within them. There's a spiritual awakening within all of us. We all know there's something else. And then, of course, we come to the God question. Is God real? What is God? Who is God? How do we explain or understand that sense of divinity that we have in our hearts? It's such a massive question.
It is, but it's not really for us. It's not really for us to define that either. Only for ourselves we can, yes, as to what our personal feelings and belief is. Deirdre, I completely agree. We're all part, we're all, but some people's faith gets them through. I know we all have different faiths and religions. Personally, I believe it's restriction, but I know it also helps others. And like my mum is a devout Christian, and when she had bowel cancer, and I can remember, I've never forgot it, and I can remember when she was getting ready to go down for the surgery, the last person she wanted to see was her minister, and when he came, he had a specific passage that she wanted him to read, and the fear was there as to whether she was coming back, but because she had such strong faith in what she's been knowing all her life since she was 6, that got her through that. And she's 84 now. She's kicking and screaming and having a brilliant time, enjoying life. But it did get her through that. So it's hard to define anything, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think as well, it has to be, whatever you believe or who you believe God is to you. If, some people believe God's a man, some people believe God's energy, some people believe God's the light of the world. But whoever you believe God is to you, then, as long as it's with love, and it's not with dictatorship or anger or hate, then, there could be nothing wrong with that, as long as your belief and also your extension to the world is with love. That's what I believe. And I came from a Roman Catholic background, and I now realize, no disrespect to everybody who are Roman Catholic, I still believe in many aspects of it. And I still love going to the churches and cathedrals, etc. It gives me that, I love it. It just gives me that peace in my heart, but don't dictate, and I feel that there's too much dictatorship now going on about, you will do this, you will say this, and you'll be punished for this if you don't do this. I kind of don't believe that side. I just think,
No.
But you were very lucky, Alice. Don't get me wrong, my mum's a lot more open now. She's really, really, I think she's still really strong in her faith. She is more open, but it was the Christian faith we were brought up in. You were brought up in quite a spiritual background, which you were very lucky.
No, I was brought up as a Roman Catholic. No, I was brought up as a Roman Catholic. I was brought up as a Roman Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. And I got married in a Catholic church. No. So I did. But I still believed in what I was doing with my own spiritual work, but I couldn't tell people what I was doing, because I would have been told that really that's against the religion, you know, so I really shouldn't be doing that, because they would see it as you're playing with the devil and not playing with the love of spirit world. But no, I was, but that's what I'm saying, you know.
Was your father not quite spiritual?
My father was Roman Catholic. Yeah, my father was Roman Catholic, but he also, you know, believed there was something else, you know. But it didn't stop him from going to church every Sunday. Didn't stop him.
I understand that, but they had a bigger awareness.
But my dad did not go to spiritualist churches at all until I was demonstrating, and it was actually the latter 2 years before he passed that he went to my own spiritualist church back then. But before that, he never went to anything, whereas my mother did. She went to them all, you know. You know, so I just think, you know, you should be able to believe and do what you want, you know, and take little snippets of things that you've got from it. And I still like, you know, going to a Catholic church. I still like the prayers, lighting the candles, you know, but I'm doing that belief in, perhaps I'm doing it my way, and I'm doing it with love, and I'm doing it with spirit, and I'm doing it with the, you know, and that's what I enjoy doing. And I also like, you know, working with spirit, going to spiritist churches. I still like going to cathedrals and churches of all Christianity, you know, and that's where I think things have went wrong. You've got to have one or the other. You can't have it all, you know. And who says you can't have it all, you know? Anyway, Paul, you're still here, darling. What do you think?
I am. Okay, so, gosh, don't get me started. It's one of my favorite subjects. Okay, because I think we misunderstand what God is and how man has not abused it or understand it. The problem is we have order to create society. We don't have a model of anything else ever. Now, none of us remember, I'm sure Atlantis was near perfect. You know, there's, if anyone believes in Atlantis, but I'm sure there were civilizations where they were better than what we have today. There is a level of control. Now, I get control because we need a level of restraint. We are in a very difficult time where we had gone through a lot of wars, etc., etc. So there's always been a level of control. But did you know in the Bible itself, there is actually, I know it says, and people will, that are strong believers, Christian, Catholic, will probably throw a Bible at me right now, but there is actually evidence within the Bible that suggests that mediumship is accepted. Like, for instance, the gifts of the Spirit, 1 Corinthians between 1 and 14. Try reading that.
It contradicts itself, I have to say. But, you know, although my mum was a Christian, she decodes the Bible. And the Spirit would say to me, the Bible is the book of holy codes. And it would say to me, you need to learn to decode the Bible like my mum does. But it's 100%, but it contradicts itself in several ways, what you say.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. And that way, you've only got to look at more recent religions, like forgive me if there's any Jehovah's Witnesses listening. You know, I don't want to say anything controversial, ladies, but it's gone into a bit of a cult. What they believe that the world will end. There's only going to be 134,000 people that survive. So God is going to resurrect, and everyone else is going to burn. Now, my God is a loving God, and that's not in my experience. That's not what I've experienced with the God I have awareness of. I don't even like using the word God, and again, that's another thing I have issue with. You know, being a medium, we have chosen on a soul level to be of service. So how does that then, in service to who? To what?
But do you think you say we're chosen? So are you into the opinion, Paul, that only certain people can do mediumship?
No, I believe that mediumship I believe mediumship is a natural process. I believe everyone has the ability. And I think it's a natural process of who we are. When I say chosen, we chose personally to do this. A part of our soul planning. I don't like to use that word, soul planning, but a part of our soul is, you know, apparently I made an agreement to do this work when I was over there before I came here. Okay, whether you believe in that concept or not. Okay, well, I'm here, I'm a medium. But what is the point of service? Who are we serving here? What are we serving? So I kind of went on this journey understanding God and the principles, certain principles that are important to me. For example, I believe a lot of mediums worship their guides rather than actually building a relationship with whoever they term or whoever they see their God is. And it's taken me so long to realize that my guides are in service for love of God, for the love of humanity, for the love of us all. So therefore, surely, rather than worrying about who our guides are, and I get the importance of having a relationship with our guides, but I also feel that we should have a relationship with God, because that would help everything we do. That sounds, gosh, I sound like I'm going to go on a quest
No,
to
I
find
like
God.
listening to this. Yeah.
It's a very I just think it's an important process for a medium to understand that, not just to be one-sided in terms, you know, your spirituality is really important. And I think as mediums, we tend to not nurture that. We go from doing course after course after course. We quickly make cards up and advertise we're mediums. And we're not nurturing ourselves and understanding that spiritual aspect of self, who we are, what we are, where have we come from, where are we going, all of those questions. And that's another point I want to come to, which I think is really important. How many of mediums out there today have got to a point where, oh, why am I not, why do I feel things have changed within my medium? Why do I feel like I'm getting stuck? So I believe there's a point within our development, and we're all constantly developing, that we get to a point where we hit like a plateau. Now I call it the dark night of the soul, where we need to take time out from mediumship sometimes, and we need to concentrate on developing self-understanding self. But unfortunately, because of life gets in the way, you know, I do this full time now, so therefore there is a not a burden, but there is a pressure on me to make sure I can pay the bills every month, you know? So but then how do I have a break from that? So I've got to develop something else outside of that. But what I'm saying is it's really important for all mediums to take time out from that. And I think as do we teach that? I don't know. I remember a medium when I was growing up, Sean, bless his heart, he's died. He had a fall and he had a stroke. He's over the other side. He was one of the most natural mediums I've ever seen. He would he would put his head down at the start of a reading, and he put his head up, and you would see his guide over his face. He was amazing. And he had a red Indian for a guide, and you could see. But he would literally shut the door, and he couldn't see anyone for a couple of months. He'd come back, and it'd be better, be stronger. And I think we don't necessarily nurture ourselves in that way, because on the other flip side of that, there's also a part of this that can burden our soul with all the pain that you feel. I don't know about you guys. I feel the pain sometimes of the lost loved ones, and that wanting to bring the two worlds together, and that pain and that love that you feel between them. I mean, you can't be human if you don't feel that in some way.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for us all to have, one, that relationship with the spiritual self, and two, to make sure we nurture ourselves. God, I sound like Professor Yackle now. I've gone off on
No,
one.
you know, I know a trance medium, and he would have finished up in November, the beginning of November, and he wouldn't start his spiritual work again until February, towards the end of February, and that was his time off. And he did that every year. And I think it's really important that we do, because we can either, you know, sometimes we can get on that wheel, and we're performing and we're doing because we think that's what's expected of us, instead of stopping and thinking, okay, I need time for my journey. I need time just to go sit in the nothing, sit with nobody around me, and just enjoy the meditation, enjoy the quietness, enjoy the break. And you're really recalibrating yourself. So you are.
So I mean, I can use myself as an example. I had a problem where I started my journey being very clairvoyant. And after a while, I then started to become clairaudient, more clairsentient, although I didn't understand the process of that. But I started to develop, and then certain aspects of me wasn't there. And recently, my last year, my clairvoyance has come back really strong, because I've developed on another level. But I think that so many mediums walk away from mediumship because they'll say, "Oh, it's not happening. Something's blocking. I don't get it." And I think just take some time out. Yeah.
Burnout, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. And you said something, Paul, and I'm curious for your answer, because when you have to pay the bills, I understand that we have to pay the bills, but it comes down to the trust. So this is where it comes down to the trust. So I would have students and they would say to me, I've seen a course I really wanted to do, but I just can't afford it at the minute. Or I've seen something that I really wanted to do, but I really don't have the money. And I have always said to them, ask Spirit to help show you where to make that. And every single time they would have come into class saying, I asked Spirit, it appeared, it was put before me.
Yeah.
And they always, so goes back to the trust. Would you say, okay, the end of November, that's me now on my break to the end of January. 2 months, I'm going to focus on myself, my journey, and calibrate and trust Spirit to provide that for you?
Well, a couple of examples of that. Firstly, I'll address that in two different ways. So I agree in manifestation, and the stronger connection you have, and for the right reasons, of course, and how you ask is really important. For example, I in August, you can laugh at this. It's absolutely fine. I'm like, do you know what? I'm not gonna get through this next few months because there's so much I wanted to do. My car needed about £1,000 worth of work. It's a pretty new one as well. It's only a 20 plate. So I was a bit upset, and I'm oh, do you know what? I need a few thousand here to get me through. I kid you not, because I asked upstairs. I don't like to ask because it feels a bit. I got a tax rebate of £5,000.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks. And I'm like, you're
but
joking.
you call it manifesting, and yes, don't get me wrong, I agree, I believe in manifesting, but when there's times I will just say to my guides, guys, I have maybe such and such, because we have a dancer and she costs money,
Yeah.
and I said, maybe she's needed dance stuff, maybe she's needed fees, and I've actually said to Spirit, are you able to help me? Should I be doing this? And if I'm meant to be helping provide for this, I know it will work out okay. And it does. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, on the other side of that, your question, for me, I kind of split that question. So for me, I can't really say, oh, I'm going to have November off and I'll come back January, because you can have times where you feel like, you've had a couple of months working and suddenly something happens. So for me, I find it hard to be specifically have certain time. I think it's great, when people are learning, don't just go bounce from course to course. Give it some time to experiment with your mediumship. Give it some time, see where it goes, because the problem is with mediumship as well, the forces are so subtle. It takes time for you to take it on board, to understand, to learn about yourself. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Paul, have you got anything coming up that you would like to share?
Loads. Okay, have you got a pen and paper? I'm joking. It's not that bad. We are trying to get off the ground a show. We're hoping to get it onto Netflix called Clairvoyance. But we're kind of changing some of the ideas around it. So I can't say too much about it at the moment, but we've done a little pilot. We've experimented a bit like Top Gear style. There were some very expensive classic cars. And it kind of, the audience loved it. So we're hoping to kind of get it off and get it out there. We've got a few people involved in the James Bond world that might be interested in it. So that could be quite good. That's a project we've been kind of working on for the last year or so, and it seems to be gaining momentum. So that'll be quite good. Otherwise, obviously I do Spiritual Talk TV. I've changed the format. I was on SPTV, but I'm taking a break from that. I'm just doing, I say just, I have some wonderful people come on Spiritual Talk. It's just a pre-recorded interviews, trying to look at other aspects of mediumship. For example, the responsibility of a medium and understanding the impact we have on people that have lost. Like I'm doing a mini series of episodes with, or interviews I should say, with people that have lost children, and the first one was Benny Reynolds, who's 22 and died in a car crash, and mum comes on. It's a difficult style of interviewing, because I also want to talk about some of the experiences she's had with mediums and what it's meant to her, and how people can be, I don't want to say taken advantage of or misunderstood, you know, and again, talking about how much you pay for this and all of that kind of stuff. So the reason why I've created that series, I want mediums to be more aware of the impact that they potentially can have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've just interviewed Trisha Robertson on the Enfield Poltergeist. That was quite interesting, because she knew Morris, the original guy who did the investigation. So yeah, there's all sorts on there. Season 6 on there is quite good, and that's kind of where I'm going at the moment. I'm just doing different. I'm looking to do in-person podcasts. Problem is travel, isn't it? Be lovely to have that beam me up, Scotty, like they used to have on the Enterprise.
I know.
So Alice, can you just beam over here? We'll do a podcast. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would be brilliant. I know. Yeah.
And I live in Norfolk as well, but I'm looking to potentially go to London to do some podcasts in London and see how that goes. So, and obviously still focusing on mediumship. I'm teaching. I've started doing an in-person group this year, and it's got so popular. I advertised it once, and people just want to keep joining. So I'm looking at doing 2 evenings with that. I'm doing an online course as well. So I've got lots of pies and plates on the spin. Fingers in pies, so to speak, and yeah. So I've not had a nervous breakdown by this time next year. I don't know what, because I've got a lot on the go, and maybe I should listen to some of my own advice and take a break.
We're all like that.
Yeah, but we love it. That's why we're here. We do love it. It drives us on. Yeah.
What about you, Judith? What have you got coming up?
I am practicing what I preach. I am actually really practicing what I preach. I have changed everything. I've said this for the last few weeks. I have changed absolutely everything. I've stopped all my development circles. I've stopped everything that I was kind of doing is all changing. I'm taking time out, and I'm really enjoying the time I'm spending with spirit, because I can feel things is changing. I know things is changing, but it's after Christmas. I don't want to say, I want to have all my things, everything in place, but I have a really big project coming up, and I'm really excited. I'm very excited for that. And
just keep hold of it. I know what you're talking about.
It kicks off in January, and
look out for that.
Yeah, I'm really looking for. And I also am doing the podcast, their voice, their story, their voice. And again, that's for spirits and to share basically what spirits want them to share about the enigmas of our world, and also to help those who never got to return home, and for them to be able to tell their story, their way, and what happened to them. So I'm looking forward to that. That's my new podcast. Yeah.
Is that not November? That starts at that 27th of November or something like that.
Yeah, it's just an introductory in the 22nd, and that'll really kick off properly in January too. Everything's happening for me in January, but I'm pacing myself and I'm making sure that everything is exactly the way I want it. So yeah,
sounds good.
It does sound good.
Thank you.
Okay.
What about you?
Right, for me, yeah, I'm just having a little look at mine. Okay, so I've started another podcast which is on the Sparkle of Light spiritual chat show. It's called Sparkle of Light Unexplained Mysteries. It's once a month. It's a Friday at 9 p.m. The first episode is actually out now, and it is basically about exploring the extraordinary and delving into the mysteries of the unknown. I think I put something up here earlier on about if anybody wants to come on to the show. I have got some guests lined up, but obviously I'm looking for more guests, so if anybody wants to come on to the show, then please do. Okay, I'm trying to do this with my left hand. Here we are. So if you've got a story to share, like paranormal encounters, premonitions, near-death experiences, reincarnation, astronomy, then just give me a message with a brief outline of or description of it to alicetrevoro@gmail.com. And as I say, I'm only doing that once a month just now because I'm doing this one as well. But I'm sure that will open up to other avenues. And just give us a message, so I'd be quite interested to hear some of their stories. It's quite interesting, some of the stories that's been coming in. And the next thing is Thursday, November the 27th. I have a psychic mediumship evening with Clara Farland, who's from Scotland as well. And the doors open at 7 and we start at 7:30. There will be an angel competition with a little unique twist to it as well. And free prize draw on the night for anyone who is purchasing any tickets online. And there will be some other competitions there too, and dogs are also very welcome, and they get doggy biscuits and treats, etc. too. And tickets are also available at the door, but that's subject to availability. Last month, there was quite a few had to be turned away, so my apologies for that, but we've got a limited number there as well. Then we have our Christmas special, which is a psychic mediumship evening, and I'm doing that with Elaine Claire Harris and myself, and we will be doing that on Wednesday, the 11th of December, 7:30. Doors open at 7. Again, it's Arden Cable Hotel, Shore Road, Helensburgh. There will be Christmas cracker competitions on that night, and lots of other exciting sort of Christmas things going on there too. So that's me for the moment.
Can I just say, I forgot to say, there will be one more episode of Prophetic News this year, and then we'll carry on after Christmas. But for this year, there'll be one more episode of Prophetic News to end the year. Be interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So what? Can I just leave you with, Paul, an inspirational word of wisdom to our listeners just now before we close up?
Okay, you've put me right on the spot, and it's my COVID brain has kicked in, but it's okay. Let me think of something here. For me, depending on your situation, especially if you're developing mediumship, don't ever give up. Don't ever doubt yourself. And one of the things we were talking about yesterday, actually in Circle, was the blocks that we receive and we have from our own programming. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the interview, but that can stop you from your potential, reaching that potential of who you truly are. So believe in yourself, and you'll get there eventually. That's about the best I can come up with my COVID brain. I'm so sorry.
No, that is true, though. I mean, it's very important what you say. It's so important, and there's a lot of a lot of people need that word of wisdom as well. It's a scary process for some people.
Absolutely. And have you heard of that saying that many are chosen but only a few make it? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you think about your environment, the people around you, the stress in your life, work situations, there's so many distractions. But I would say, especially as we go into Aquarius, what's really important is to try to keep yourself centered. Go off, find yourself a little bit of a quiet space, and just sit and if you can't meditate, just sit and focus on your breath. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Just sit.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Paul, for coming
Oh, it's been
on
a pleasure.
tonight. Yeah, I would like to thank you. And also for my experience I had when I worked with you on Spiritual Talk TV as well, because I do believe it, and I do say it with all honesty. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't have had the experience and also the training from you as well, because you were giving me, you do, this is the way you would do it, etc. So I would like to thank you, and and also Spirit Team, the Spirit World as
And
well.
also Jennifer, she's on here as well. She said hello tonight. Hi, Jennifer.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to also just say, well, thank you, because I think it was about a year or something I was with you. So it was good. Yeah. But it's good to move on. It's also good to move on, open other doors and do other things, because as people, we have to keep progressing and moving forward. And it's exciting times for us all. And the reason I bring that up is because we have to support each other in our movement. It's so important. And I know our lovely Judith is going to be moving on shortly and doing other things as well. But you've got to support each other. You've got to be there for each other. And I think there's so much more needed in the world where we have got people's backs. We are there for them. We will support them and wish them well in their own journey. By doing so, you're also wishing yourself well on your own journey as well. Keep the love flowing, and thank you for all the listeners that have been on this evening. And hopefully we'll see you and hear from you again next week, same time, Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Good night. God bless. Look after yourself and each
Good
other.
night, guys.